is Paul Vernay, and I'm going to be teaching BCS 152, Planning, Implementing, and Promoting Roundtables. Kevin Hanks and Pedro Rincon are going to be my assistants today. If you saw my dead screen earlier, I put doctor in because I'm a doctor of commissioner science. I've been through the program here, and my forte or my major was roundtable services. So I know a little bit, and I've done a little bit about what we're going to talk about. One thing I'm going to do in the chat, I'm going to put a planning sheet, which is for you guys to download. It basically gives a schedule of what and how to plan a roundtable and how many minutes you do for each. So we're going to allude to that during this course, but that's for you to download and print if you want. So welcome, everybody. Again, my name is Paul Vernay. Currently, I'm a unit commissioner. In the past, I was a roundtable commissioner. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. Again, this is BCS 152, Planning, Implementing, and Promoting Roundtables. So, course objectives. I'm going to explain the roundtable planning and implementation process, discuss how to utilize the roundtable resource web page tool. So one thing about me, which you guys probably have picked up on, I live in Utah, but I moved from New York in 2008. So I tend to talk a little quick. So I apologize. I will probably go over things more than once just because I know that's the way I do it. If you have any questions on a slide or on anything I'm talking about, please put it in the chat or raise your hand, and one of my assistants will get my attention and we'll address that. Usually after a topic, I will ask if there's any questions. So I'll probably hold off addressing those until then. So thank you. So I'm going to go over understanding the importance of a well-planned roundtable and providing unit service to the district and council, and demonstrate methods for promoting roundtables. So who plans a roundtable? So the assistant council commissioner for roundtable will usually give a guideline to each district or to each council, and the council will give it to each district as to what they want to cover over the coming year or quarter or however often they meet to plan out. Okay, and then the assistant district commissioner for roundtables, the assistant roundtable commissioner, they will get together and they will talk to the roundtable commissioner about planning. They will get together and have their meeting. So usually the assistant roundtable commissioner will have a niche. So there would be an assistant roundtable commissioner for BSA Scouts. There'd be an assistant roundtable commissioner for Cubs. And then within that, the assistant district commissioner for roundtables would give the breakout for the Cubs and also for the Venturers and for the BSA Scouts. So within these, there are different niches that they have. So roundtable planning, again, Scouts BSA, Cub Scouts venturing. Roundtable commissioner and assistant with help from the district That's VOA, that's the venturing thing, but it's for everything. Everything comes from the district and filters down to the roundtable. Next slide is commissioner resources. Okay, I wanted to delve into this a little bit. I want to go through this with you because I find that this is an invaluable tool for Roundtable. Okay, the Roundtable planning resources. Okay, so if you have a schedule, okay, the beginning schedule, you're gonna have an opening. So what are we gonna do in our opening, right? You're gonna have a countdown, 1, 2, 3. There'll be maybe a couple of videos there. We're gonna start with the prayer, pledge, oath, and law, and maybe have the national anthem. Not everybody has a national anthem, but we don't have. My district, Thurston Peak, doesn't have it, but maybe you want to have that once in a while, just to come back to patriotics. Then you have a hot topic. All right, hot topic is usually something that you want to spend a short time talking about. Like, for example, sharing, this time of year, sharing scouting, right? We're trying to get people to commit to scouting, and we'll do some recruiting, okay? Or maybe in December, January, you want to talk about Philmont. So clicking on Philmont, it brings up a sheet that's prepared to talk about Philmont Training Center. For example, there's Commissioner Week. Is anybody going to Commissioner Week this year? I am. I know Doug Kosai, who's the commissioner, who is the head chair of Commissioner College, is going. I believe I heard Brett Sutherland say he was going also. So it'll give you a list of conferences. There's religious conferences. The Catholic religion has one, the Lutheran, and I think the Methodists used to, but I think they don't charter scouts. There's a YouTube video about it. So you could spend, so for your training moment, you could spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes talking about Philmont. And then you could have somebody that's been there talk about how they have been there and give different base bullet points about what they've done. Okay, then you have a safety moment. A safety moment could be a first aid moment. It could be something as simple as how to sit at a desk. I've seen that, and that was something that's outside of the box that you don't think about. You know, proper, as we get older, we get back pain, we get neck pain. Proper way to sit at a desk and be at one of these meetings is invaluable. Campfire safety, sun, this time of year when the kids go to camp, sun and aquatics. As you go towards the fall, you may have hypothermia. Guide to safe scouting is always one. And then cub breakouts and scout breakouts. You know, the breakout, this gives good ideas to alleviate redundancy from the meetings. I mean, you go to your roundtable once a month, and I remember when I was the BSA commissioner, I always try to figure out what I'm going to talk about. So I would use this, or I would invite a guest speaker. Sometimes you want to invite a guest speaker to come in during the breakout session to give a talk. One of the things that the BSAs found interesting was to make a burrito. Does anybody know what a burrito is? Well, burrito is where you create is a sleeping mechanism that you create by using a tarp, a couple of sleeping bags, and a blanket or two. And what it is, it's like a burrito. Like you make it, you layer things, and then you wrap yourself in it, and it takes the place of a tent when you're out. It's very warm. It's a lot of the scouts in my area use it. The only problem that I have is when you fold it up, it's bigger than a backpack. So it's good for car camping, but it's not good for anything other than that. So, all right. So we're back to the commissioner resources.
So Paul, should we for the ADC, when working with the different commissioners for each of the programs, should that individual encourage those program commissioners to plan a full year out or be ahead so that it can communicate that?
I think that's a very good question. Thank you. I think it can be a year out. I think depending upon how often the key three meets, where they get the ideas from. For example, if the key three meets quarterly, the assistant commissioners in charge of the breakouts and the roundtable may want to be a quarter ahead, if that makes sense, right? So if you're meeting March, June, and September, you might want to be given the guidance, or if from the key three they get the guidance, give the guidance to the ADC to go out, okay, we're meeting in June, go through September, and plan ahead. That way, the key three has an idea of what's coming up in the next few months. And if they need to modify, that gives them enough time to modify the schedule based upon the current needs, right? Scouting is an static thing. It's not, it's not always going to go from A to Z in proper form. Sometimes when you get to Q, you might have to go back to A because something comes up. You know what I mean? So if you have a schedule, you might have, okay, let's talk about camping in September or August, let's say. But we say, hey, okay, there's new things coming into play, requirements, right? This September, there's new requirements coming in. I believe there's one that's going to come out that's going to rock the scouting world, where any adult that goes on a camping trip needs to be a registered leader. I believe that's coming up. And there are parents I know that go camping with their troops because they have a child that's special needs, or that has a heart murmur, or has some type of condition, and they want to be there in case something happens. Not that they don't trust the leaders, but parents do that. If a certain parent is there, that parent is going to have to register, I believe, in September. So that's something that they're going to need to, that's a change that needs to be addressed in July or August. So if you have your 6-month plan or your 2-quarter plan, your quarterly plan, you might get guidance from the key three, say, whoa, you need to cover this to make sure that the units address it with their parents in case they have a situation like that. Yes, Kevin.
We have a comment that says the newest advice is to plan 3 months at a time to be able to respond to current conditions. And we've covered that. I'm just making sure we got the comment covered.
Yeah. Yes. We have to plan for current conditions. That's correct. And like I said, things change, right? For example, here in Utah, we're having a lot of water coming down because the record snow is melting. So there may be changes to things that were planned. And right, so let's say there's a camporee right near a river that and the river may overflow, for example, or a camp that's on a lake and the lake is higher than usual. Then we have to address that. The best way to address that, in addition to sending emails out, is having the unit commissioners, but it's also at the roundtable, because that's where we have that every month. So we have to always be fluid. We can't just be stuck in cement. Any other questions regarding that type of planning out? Go ahead.
I have a comment that I think is really that hit me is I just really appreciate the resources that they put together to allow us to be able to have a plan. And you've mentioned already, be flexible. We're not static. We're a little more dynamic in the things that we do. And I just really like the fact that there's a guideline that we're able to follow and get some ideas from. I've usually found that once you have certain ideas, you may, as you start adapting that to your particular unit, all of a sudden things can go much more focused and better in meeting the needs of that unit. But I really appreciate having that plan.
And thank you. Yeah, exactly. And then, anything that, I mean, it's an old cliche, but anything that we've thought about, it's not new, right? There's not really many new ideas. So it's always good to check the roundtable planning resources to see what they have.
Hey, Paul.
Yes.
Can I make a comment? So down there where it says questions, comments, and suggestions, if you have ideas for hot topics or things that should be presented or things that might be missing or things you want the national roundtable team to know, I know that those messages do get there. And so if you have an idea or, something that needs to be there, share it.
Right. Thank you, Maddie. Isn't this your area of expertise also? You work on things from national?
Is it? Well,
not necessarily this, but in general.
So this actually is my job. In fact, they do come to me. So I am the roundtable chair. So these questions, and I get questions all the time. They're great. Share if you have an idea of a hot topic or a safety moment, or an improvement to roundtable. Share.
Yeah, exactly. The national will look at that and deem it. If they deem it important, they'll add it, or they'll research it.
What's interesting is they go to like all of the different committees, and so everyone will look at it, and then you'll get a response from someone, which I think is fantastic. Sometimes you put a comment out there into space, and you never know what happens to it, but you will hear back.
Well, thank you for adding that. That's something. Well, that particular topic is something that you don't always think that you're going to get a response, right? When you put a topic, you put a comment, or you leave it on Amazon, you leave it somewhere else, you get like, okay, thank you for your comment, but nobody ever notifies you, at least in my experience, that they've addressed that, or some other person would say, yeah, that happened to me also. So thank you very much for adding that. So yeah, your ideas will be heard. All right. So the roundtable format. But there's different formats, and I'll just go click on that. So we're doing a Zoom format here, right? So I don't want to look at that. Sorry, I didn't want to click on that. We're doing a Zoom format, right? So some roundtables have part in person and part Zoom, which is called a hybrid, and some are in person. So depending upon your particular unit and district, how they're going to meet, you could plan it accordingly. So for example, if you have a Zoom, you need to make sure that there's a Zoom master that handles it. Like we had Annalise, and we have other people here that are doing that for us. It's set up. If you have the breakout rooms, they need to set it up. Maybe your district executive will do that. Maybe they'll designate one of the commissioners or assistant commissioners to do that. they're going to have to do that. If you have a hybrid, you need to have a camera set up and then make sure that that's broadcast successfully. And in person, you have to make sure, what do you have to make sure? You may have to make sure that the place is secured, right? Try to make sure that it's constant. You know, if you're going to PS 92, you want to go to PS 92 a number of months in a row, at least 3 to 6 months, because that way the group will know to go to PS 92. Oh, and you also want to have it a set week, right? My district is the first Thursday of the month, and it has been as long as I've been. We've had a number of different mergers and council changes and district name changes and adding geography to it, but it's always the first Thursday of the month. So if you want to make sure that it's the same time and same place, and if it changes, you have to broadcast that. So, and you have to make sure that that's done. All right. So if you have any questions about that. Oh, also, I just forgot one thing. One important thing. The most important thing about an in-person roundtable, make sure you have a good Cracker Barrel, because that implies, or that allows for one of the most important things of the roundtable is just getting together and chatting with one another. You know, that's what roundtables is all about, getting together and learning from each other. But we'll get into that near the end. So the planning sheet. So planning, again, you have to know what you're doing and where you're doing it. Okay, so the assistant commissioners have to be prepared. They have to come in, they have to know what they're teaching, they have to know what they're doing. The person that's running the meeting has to get it together. So here, a good plan, location, assign team members, right? Know what you're going to know before you go. It's like leave no trace. Know before you go. Make sure you have it planned ahead. Make sure you know where you're going to be, and you have your assigned team members, right? So your roundtable commissioner, person that leads the talk, is going to be usually the same person. The BSA is going to be the same person that does the breakout, unless he wants to invite somebody to do a topic. Same with the Cub, same with the venturing, and make sure that's done. Make sure the person who's in charge of the flags is always there. Make sure the person in charge of the Cracker Barrel is always there. And if that person cannot make it 1 month, communicate back. How do you promote Roundtable? Those of us in Crossroads of the West, please put in something outside the box that you do within your own district and that you don't get from council. Those of you outside of Thurston Peak, if there's anybody here, please let us know how your council district units promote Roundtable. And then Kevin, if you could read a couple of those off as they come in. But I know how we do it. We get an email from the council that says there's going to be something going on, and the district disseminates that information to the individuals. David, we do it to the leaders, to the individual leaders, and to the commissioners, right?
Some of the ones that are coming in is the district exec sends a note to all the key 3, emails using graphics, a telephone contact list. RDE emails the key 3 of each unit with the schedule and roundtable Zoom link and showing the general session and breakout sessions. We also broadcast on council and district Facebook pages. Unit commissioners also remind units if they are in touch already. Just email's a big thing. Those are the things that have been popping in.
Email's probably been the major way that we've done it. Text works from the commissioners, from the unit commissioners and stuff like that. Personal contact.
So I'm going to ask this to the group, to the class. What do you think is the most important, not important, but the best way to get people to come to Roundtable? Think outside the box here. It was alluded to earlier, but
Paul, let's see. John has mentioned navigation, maps, and compass. I'd like to hear more about that if we could. That seems a little outside the box.
Sorry, that's my bad. I was trying to copy. I accidentally sent something to Maddie and then tried to copy it and paste it. Thought I'd pasted it, and really it was from my Cub Day camp that I'm running, something else. And so I love it. But navigation, maps, and compass, absolutely. We know where every unit is and where every unit meets. And once a month, my district commissioner and I try to attend at least one meeting at a different unit, and then we come back together and we tell them that, hey, we're doing this, and when we do it, how we do it. And that seems to not work so well, but we try.
Well, that brings up a different point, different direction that you were going. So that could be a topic given by a guest in the BSA breakout, right? How to do that. How to do geocaching, right? Geocache is one that's very popular, but it's an outside the box thing. I know it's offered at one or two of the camps here, but not everybody does that. If you get a scoutmaster or an assistant or a volunteer to come in and promote map work, geocache work, orienteering work at the Roundtable, and give handouts out or show them where they can get a meeting guide for that. That's something that they could take back to their unit. So I know it might have been a typo and put it in there, but that's a good example of a subtopic that can be taught in a breakout. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Paul, could I make just a quick suggestion? This is just an idea, but we have such a unique opportunity here. We have Nick and Deborah and John, all from councils around the country. I'm wondering if we could give them each a minute or two to tell us about their roundtables, to get some input, just as maybe a little quick discussion as you get close to wrapping up.
Yeah, that would be great.
Oh, I'll kick it off just because I got a big mouth. John Gillespie, the Roundtable Commissioner for Golden Gate District in San Francisco. When I took over at the beginning of the year, I took over because I was bored, excuse my French, brainless, because the meetings that we were having were just gab fests for people to tell how wonderful and amazing they are, rather than really sharing information with unit leaders that's going to benefit the units and the scouts and everything else. So I changed it up a bit. And so now, instead of having per the BSA guideline, the templated sort of roundtable meeting, we do our opening ceremony, and then we move straight into breakout sessions with Cubs and Scouts separated. Obviously, we've got, well, not obviously, but we have Sea Scouts and Venturers as well that show up. So they go into the Scout section, and then the Cub Scouts do their own thing. And it's really opportunities. We might have one or two topics and allow the conversation to organically flow from there. And essentially, we facilitate that conversation so that we get, ensure that the participants get something out of it. But for example, what we do is the last month we did, topic was Scout Spirit, and how do you guys, teach Scout Spirit in your units? And we let everyone bounce the ideas off of each other rather than giving them a scripted or a pre-prepared presentation. So it's really allowing them to bounce ideas off and form those relationships, which maybe they wouldn't be able to if they're just sitting there listening to someone talk. Cub Scouts, same thing. Hey, what are the issues that you guys are facing in your units, and how do we help you solve them? because for me personally, as the Roundtable Commissioner, that's what I feel is my core goal, is to ensure that we're giving participants something that is useful and increases their knowledge, however, and two, it forms relationships where maybe they didn't exist before between different units, which, despite being a district that's reasonably small, 53 square miles, there's a lot, people don't know each other. So these are those opportunities. And then after we do our breakout sessions, we come back together and we do our core, sort of, here's something that's going to impact everyone or has the potential to impact everyone, and share it with everyone. So that's kind of how we do it. We've just kind of turned it around a little bit. And honestly, it seems to be working. People are really responding. They're liking it.
Well, put it over there. John, are you in person or virtual?
We're virtual. It's actually a pain in the ass to get from point A to point B in San Francisco with traffic and all that sort of rubbish. So yeah, we've stuck to virtual since COVID. There's, people constantly raise a little flag. Hey, what about this? But then when you actually talk to the unit leaders, they're like, yeah, no, we don't want to go in person, because that means we're going to have to spend 30 to 40 minutes driving from A to B at peak traffic. We're going to spend a couple of hours together, and then we're going to drive home. And as much as the in-person sort of interaction is valuable and people enjoy it, we don't get unit leaders showing up because they don't want to go through the process of getting from A to B, and they prefer doing it via Zoom. So no, we're sticking to virtual for the moment. We decided we might do twice a year. We'll have an in-person, bigger, more elaborate event. But apart from that, our monthly roundtables are all Zoom.
What's your attendance?
Pretty
generally?
Pretty personally speaking, given the number of unit leaders, not as good as I want, but we're getting there. We get
not numbers, just percentage.
30 people.
Okay.
Just a quick heads up, we have just less than 10 minutes left.
Thank you. All right. Let's see. Deborah, would you like to add something? I noticed you put a long comment in the chat, but would you like to make your voice heard?
No, thank you.
No? Okay. Hey, no problem. All
Hey,
right.
hey,
So,
I have something to share real quick, Paul.
yeah, go ahead.
Just
Pedro
the whole,
Rincon, he's one of our
a new commissioner here. So
he's one of our rookies.
so I have some fresh ideas, the whole thinking outside the box. I would say, hey, just a quick thought, maybe perhaps putting on a STEM night. This is for the leaders, of course. So just throwing out some ideas, some showcasing some science, kind of nerdy, things, that they can share with their units, or maybe even contacts. So people that are in those fields, that's something that doesn't get around too often. So, just pick something, out of the merit badge booklet or manual, right? The list of merit badges, and try to focus around those merit badges to try to come up with some sort of a specified field that you can expand upon.
That's good. So my suggestion for that, Pedro, if you want to go outside the box, which would be great, look at what's offered at camps and look at what most scouts have. They have statistics put out this year, right? And choose something in the bottom third that that less than half or less than a quarter of the scouts take as a merit badge. Like, I don't know, scuba diving, let's say, as opposed to basketry, right? Everybody takes basketry. It takes 5 minutes at camp. You could get it. You don't even need to sign up for it. You do it in your free time. With something like scuba diving or welding or beekeeping. I know beekeeping is not a merit badge anymore, but something like that. And showcase that. Try to get a merit badge counselor to come in and promote that. Give his card out. That would be something where you could, and I'm sure it's the same in every other council or district or place that has that. use that as a way to get the word out that, hey, this is available and I'm here to teach it and do that. How does that sound, Pedro? Does that sound like something you could take back? Talk to Dave?
That sounds awesome. Also, I have a little bit of more of a mentality that, yeah, you know, like I used to be a Cub master, right? And so, you know, engaging, you know, everybody and making it fun, right? The funner that you make the activity, the more enjoyable everybody, and the more likely people will be wanting to come back. So probably that. Just, I don't know. I do have Cub Scout mentality, so, you know, do your best and make it fun.
So I just want to sum it up. So during this course, we have learned how to plan and implement a roundtable, how to utilize the roundtable research webpage, so where it is, bookmark it if you need it. Understand how important it is to have a well-planned roundtable. Again, if you have a roundtable on Thursday and your committee is talking Wednesday, hey, what should we do? That's not a well-planned roundtable. Okay, you want to be at least 3 to 6 months in advance. And if you have a change, and if the key three has to change that, at least, you know, you'll know, at least key three will know well ahead of time what needs to be changed. Okay, like I said, the striking example is any parent that goes, if I'm not mistaken, has to be a registered leader. And then we didn't demonstrate methods because I don't think that would have been a good exercise for Zoom. So I just want to talk a little bit about my experience with Roundtable. I moved back to Utah in 2015, and the first thing that I was told, I'm in charge of a unit. I didn't know anything about, I had always been a Cub Scouter. I had been through Wood Badge, but I didn't know anything about being a BSA, a Scoutmaster, or a varsity coach, or a crew leader. But I was given it, and varsity was a 14 and 15-year-old thing set up by the LDS Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, to give extra high adventure. Anyway, I didn't know anything about that. I thought I was coaching basketball or something. But I went to Roundtable, and I went to the Roundtable breakout. And I was taught I was taught the who, what, and where. Who I was, what I had to do, what varsity was, where I could do it, when I could do it. And I learned. And I went to Roundtable again, and I asked questions. And I went to Roundtable again, and I asked more questions. And I went back to my team and my other leader, and it looked to me like I was strange how I wanted to set this up. But based on what I was told at Roundtable and what I did, we had a successful run. We did everything properly. My guys did a great job. And did a great job as varsity team members. And they earned things, and they went on high adventure. They did a 50-mile kayak. They did a 50-mile bike ride, and they all planned it all themselves based on Roundtable. Now, I wasn't a good leader because I was omniscient and knew everything about the program. I became a good leader because of Roundtable and asking questions. And like I said, the breakout earlier, best time to learn is you ask questions. Hey, what did you guys do? How do you do this? How did the boys do this? And the same is true for Venture, for Cubs, for BSA. But I did that. Unfortunately, for the boys, I was the only leader that did that. There were 2 other assistants that didn't go to Roundtable. So when I was removed as leader, the other leaders didn't go to Roundtable, and it ceased to exist. This was before it ceased to exist globally. It didn't meet up to the standards. So I based that not on me, but Roundtable. Roundtable is I wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for the Roundtable that I learned, what I learned at Roundtable back in 2015, 2016. So in conclusion, take that home and promote it. You're never going to know who in your breakout or who in your class you're going to affect similarly to the way I was affected. Again, my name is Paul Vernay. Thank you all for coming. If you have any